The voice on the encrypted channel was giving away their position in real time, and Rachel Torres had 30 seconds to decide: follow protocol and report through chain of command, or break every rule to save the men about to die. What you're about to hear will change everything you think you know about the quiet soldiers who work in the shadows. Because sometimes, the most dangerous betrayal comes from the people you trust most. And tonight, one woman was about to uncover a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of military command. Before we reveal how a communications officer brought down a decorated colonel and saved dozens of American lives, tell us where in the world you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, and if this story gives you chills, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Forward operating base. Sabre sat like a fortress in the heart of Afghanistan's hostile terrain. High concrete walls, razor wire, and guard towers surrounded this sanctuary where American soldiers found refuge from Taliban attacks. Or so it was supposed to be. Staff Sergeant Rachel Torres sat in the small communications room, monitoring radio traffic through the silence of the night shift. At 26, she was average height with brown hair pulled back in regulation style. Quiet, reliable, practically invisible to most soldiers on base. But Rachel possessed a gift that would soon prove invaluable: the ability to read voices, to hear truth hidden beneath words. The night had started like any other. At 0330 hours, routine check-ins echoed through her headset. Patrol units reported positions, command center issued orders. Everything seemed normal. Rachel adjusted her headset and scanned the frequencies, monitoring the careful choreography of military communication that kept soldiers alive in hostile territory. Alpha 7 Patrol Unit reported they would pass through Checkpoint Charlie at 0345 hours, standard movement. But something in the radio chatter caught Rachel's attention, a sound that didn't belong. On an encrypted channel, a familiar voice was speaking. At first, she assumed it was routine internal coordination, but as she listened more carefully, the words were different. Coordinates were being transmitted. American soldier positions. Alpha 7 will pass through grid 41, SMB 123456789 at 0345. Vehicle count: 3 Humvees, personnel 12 men. Rachel's heart began to race. This information matched exactly what the patrol leader had just transmitted on the official channel. But this voice was relaying those same details to someone else on a different frequency. Right now, as you're watching this video, there are thousands of people working in military bases, police stations, and critical facilities around the world. They're doing their jobs quietly, just like Rachel. But sometimes, moments come when one person's decision writes history. Rachel Torres' decision that night was exactly that kind of moment. Rachel's hand trembled slightly. She checked her computer screen for active frequencies. The encrypted channel was outside the official communications network. According to protocol, no such channel should have been active at that hour. The voice continued, "Bravo 3 unit will use the southern route at 0400. Coordinates follow." Now Rachel knew for certain. Someone was providing real-time intelligence about American troop movements to an unknown party. If this information reached enemy hands, soldiers would die. She tried to identify the voice. Male, middle-aged, slight southern accent. Had to be one of the officers working on base. But who? 3,344 hours. Alpha 7 patrol would depart in 1 minute. If someone was waiting for them, they would be ambushed. Protocol raced through Rachel's mind. In such situations, she should first report directly to her commanding officer. Then, investigation would begin. Evidence would be gathered. Official procedures followed. But that would take time. The voice from the encrypted channel was still transmitting. Target will be mobile at 0345. Complete preparations. Rachel's hand froze over the radio button. 30 seconds remained. Either follow protocol and report through chain of command or Alpha 7, Alpha 7, emergency stop, change route, repeat, emergency stop. Rachel broke the rules. She was speaking directly to the patrol unit without any authorization. Base control to Alpha 7, who is speaking? What is your authority? The patrol leader was confused. Alpha 7, this is Staff Sergeant Torres communications. Enemy activity detected on your route. You must stop immediately and take alternative route. Torres, what are you doing? Another voice came from command center. Leave the frequency immediately. But Rachel continued. Alpha 7, change your position for your safety. This is an order. At that exact moment, an explosion echoed from Checkpoint Charlie. An IED detonated at the precise location where Alpha 7 was supposed to pass. If the patrol had been there, they would all be dead. But they weren't there. Rachel's warning had saved them. Base control to all units. Explosion at Checkpoint Charlie. Requesting casualty report. Alpha 7, what's your status? Alpha 7, safe and sound, thanks to Torres from communications. If she hadn't warned us. That explosion wasn't random. Someone had planned it. Someone had known exactly when and where Alpha 7 would be. And that someone was about to discover that their perfect plan had been destroyed by a communications officer who heard what she wasn't supposed to hear. The next morning, Rachel found herself in her commanding officer's office. Major Kellerman sat behind his desk, staring at her with a serious expression. Torres, you violated protocol last night. Do you have an explanation? Rachel began recounting the night's events. The encrypted channel, coordinates, intelligence being passed to enemies. She detailed everything. These are serious accusations, Torres. If you're wrong... I'm not wrong, sir. And I have worse news. I continued monitoring that channel. The traitor is still active today. Major Kellerman looked at her. The idea that this quiet, reliable soldier had stumbled upon such a conspiracy seemed incredible. But Alpha 7's survival couldn't be coincidence. For the next 3 days, Rachel secretly continued monitoring the encrypted channel. Each time, the same voice transmitted patrol routes, vehicle counts, personnel information to someone unknown. Rachel conducted voice analysis, studied recordings, tried to decode speech patterns, and finally, she realized, that voice could belong to Battalion Commander Colonel Matthews. Matthews had been stationed at FOB Sabre for 3 years, respected, experienced, trusted officer. But in the last 6 months, he'd been displaying strange behaviors, taking more leave, making private phone calls. What Rachel discovered next would transform this story from a soldier's adventure into a matter of national security. What she had uncovered wasn't just a small betrayal. It was systematic espionage that had been endangering dozens of American soldiers' lives for months. Rachel decided to collect evidence, but she had to be extremely careful. If Matthews really was the traitor and he suspected her. That night, during her shift, she prepared a voice recording device. She monitored the encrypted channel and recorded every conversation. She noted conversation times, transmitted coordinates, all details. On the 3rd night, she clearly heard Matthews' voice. Tomorrow morning, Bravo Company will transfer to Helmand. They'll use route Maple, transmitting coordinates now. That was it. Rachel now had definitive proof. But that night, she noticed Matthews coming to the communications center. Normally, commanders didn't visit this area during night shifts. Torres, is everything all right? You've been working a lot of overtime lately? Rachel's heart raced. Was Matthews suspicious of her? Yes, sir. Routine checks. Radio traffic has been a bit heavy this week. Matthews stared at her for a long time. His eyes held an expression Rachel didn't recognize. Cold, calculating. Good. Don't overwork yourself. Some things aren't worth attention. That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. Matthew's last words felt like a threat. The next morning, Rachel went directly to Base Commander General Brooks's office. She presented all her evidence, recordings, analyses. General Brooks was first surprised, then angry, then deeply concerned. "Torres, these are very serious accusations. If you're wrong, your career's over. But if you're right..." "Sir, I know there will be an ambush on Route Maple tomorrow morning. Matthews gave that information last night." Brooks looked at her. This quiet, determined woman taking such a risk showed how certain she was. "All right, Torres, tomorrow we'll see." What happened next would prove that sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths, and sometimes one person's courage can expose corruption that reaches the highest levels of command. The next morning, Bravo Company's Route Maple transfer was canceled. Instead, a decoy convoy was sent, and exactly at Route Maple, 15 Taliban militants were captured waiting in ambush. Matthews's room search revealed encrypted phones, secret bank account information, and correspondence records with Taliban. For 6 months, he'd been selling American operational intelligence to Taliban for $50,000. Rachel's discovery triggered a comprehensive investigation across multiple bases. Matthews's network had been providing intelligence that led to 12 ambushes over 6 months. 17 American soldiers had been killed because of information he sold. The FBI investigation revealed Matthews had gambling debts and family financial problems. Taliban had approached him through intermediaries, offering money for routine base information. What started as small intelligence sales had evolved into systematic betrayal. General Brooks presented Rachel with the Bronze Star Medal, saying, "Torres, if you hadn't violated protocol, many soldiers who are here today wouldn't be. Sometimes doing what's right requires breaking rules." The commendation read, "For exceptional courage in exposing enemy infiltration and preventing multiple American casualties through decisive action under extreme personal risk." But this story isn't just about Rachel Torres. It's about all the quiet professionals working in the shadows, the analysts, technicians, and communication specialists who keep watch while others sleep. People whose names never appear in headlines, but whose vigilance protects countless lives. Rachel's career changed dramatically after the incident. She received commendations and promotions, but also unwanted attention. Some colleagues viewed her as a hero, others as someone who couldn't be trusted to follow orders. She was transferred to a new assignment at the Pentagon, working in counterintelligence. Her quiet days of monitoring routine radio traffic were over. Now, she analyzed communication patterns across global operations, helping identify security breaches before they became deadly. In interviews years later, Rachel reflected on that 30-second decision that changed everything. "I didn't think about my career or the consequences," she said. "I just heard men about to die and knew I could save them. That's not heroism. That's basic human decency." The incident taught her that protocol exists for good reasons, but blind obedience can be deadly. "Rules are important," she explained, "but judgment is more important. A good soldier knows when to follow orders and when to think for themselves." Matthews's case led to significant changes in military communication security. New protocols were established for monitoring internal channels, random security audits were implemented, and psychological evaluation procedures for officers were enhanced. The Department of Defense created the Torres Protocol, a secure channel allowing enlisted personnel to report suspicious activities directly to intelligence officers, bypassing normal chain of command when time is critical. Matthews's betrayal wasn't an isolated incident. Military investigators discovered he was part of a larger network of compromised officers across 3 different bases. Rachel's courage didn't just save Alpha 7 patrol, it unraveled an entire espionage operation. The investigation Matthews's capture triggered revealed connections to 2 other officers at different bases who had been providing Taliban with American military intelligence. Major Susan Mitchell at Kandahar Airfield had been photographing classified documents and transmitting them through encrypted email. Captain David Chen at Camp Leatherneck had been providing advance notice of supply convoy routes, leading to 7 successful Taliban attacks on logistics operations over 4 months. All 3 officers had been recruited through the same Taliban intelligence network, which specifically targeted American military personnel with financial problems or personal vulnerabilities. The 3 officers' capture disrupted Taliban intelligence gathering for nearly 2 years. American casualty rates in their operational areas dropped by 60% in the 6 months following their arrests. Matthews received life imprisonment without parole. Mitchell and Chen received 25 and 30 years respectively. Their trials were conducted in military courts under classified procedures, with details sealed for national security reasons. The betrayal devastated the families of the compromised officers. Matthews's wife and 2 children had no knowledge of his activities. They lost their home, military benefits, and community support overnight. The military provided counseling and financial assistance to help them rebuild their lives away from military communities. Matthew's wife later spoke about the importance of reporting suspicious behavior, even when it involves family members. News of the espionage network reached Taliban leadership in Pakistan, causing significant disruption to their intelligence operations. Several Taliban commanders were executed by their own leadership for security failures related to the compromised network. The incident also influenced NATO intelligence sharing protocols across Afghanistan and Iraq, with new procedures for vetting personnel with access to operational information. What makes Rachel's story so powerful isn't just that she saved lives. It's that she represents thousands of quiet professionals whose vigilance protects us every day. People who sit in dark rooms, monitor communications, analyze data, and watch for threats that most of us never know exist. Today, Rachel Torres works as a senior communications analyst for the Department of Defense, specializing in counterintelligence operations. Her work remains classified, but colleagues describe her as someone who brings unique insight to threat assessment. She regularly speaks at military academies about the importance of individual initiative and moral courage. Every soldier, regardless of rank, has a responsibility to protect their fellow service members, she tells cadets. Sometimes that means breaking rules to do what's right. Rachel's favorite part of her academy presentations involves role-playing scenarios where students must decide between following orders and protecting lives. There's no easy answer, she explains. But when lives are on the line, you have to trust your judgment and be prepared to face consequences. Many former students credit her lessons with helping them make difficult decisions in real combat situations. Several have contacted her years later to thank her for teaching them to think critically about orders and trust their instincts. Despite the recognition and career advancement, Rachel remains modest about her role in exposing Matthews's network. "I was just doing my job," she insists. "Any communications officer should have noticed what I noticed. I just happened to be the one listening that night." She maintains that the real heroes were the soldiers in Alpha 7 Patrol who trusted her warning despite having no idea who she was or why she was breaking protocol to save them. In a world where headlines focus on dramatic battles and heroic charges, it's easy to forget that sometimes the most important victories happen quietly, in small rooms, by people whose names we never learn. Rachel Torres reminds us that heroism often wears headphones instead of helmets. The threat of insider betrayal continues to evolve. Modern military communications face new challenges from cyber espionage, social media vulnerabilities, and increasingly sophisticated recruitment by hostile intelligence services. Rachel's case study is now part of training curricula for communication specialists across all military branches. Her 30-second decision has become a textbook example of how individual initiative can have strategic impact. The Torres Protocol has been activated 17 times since its creation, preventing 8 confirmed attacks and identifying 6 additional cases of potential insider threats. Military analysts estimate it has saved at least 40 lives and prevented millions of dollars in equipment losses. More importantly, it has changed military culture by legitimizing the role of enlisted personnel in security oversight. Soldiers no longer feel they must blindly follow orders when they observe genuine threats to mission security. Rachel Torres' story teaches us that in an interconnected world where information travels at light speed, the person monitoring communications in a quiet room might be the most important guardian of all. She reminds us that heroes don't always carry weapons. Sometimes they carry radios. Her 30-second decision to break protocol and save lives represents the best of military service, putting the welfare of fellow soldiers above personal safety, career advancement, or blind obedience to authority. Staff Sergeant Rachel Torres proved that courage isn't about rank, experience, or training. It's about recognizing the right thing to do and having the strength to do it, regardless of consequences. In a small communications room in Afghanistan, one woman's decision to break rules and save lives exposed a conspiracy that had been killing American soldiers for months. She chose justice over protocol, courage over career, and truth over silence. That 30-second decision changed not just her life, but the lives of every soldier who didn't die, because someone finally heard the voice of betrayal and chose to act. Rachel Torres reminds us that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most powerful messages. And in bases around the world, communications officers still listen through the night, knowing that their vigilance might be the only thing standing between their fellow soldiers and those who would betray them. The frequency is clear. The watch continues. And somewhere in a quiet room, another Rachel Torres sits with headphones on, listening for the truth hidden beneath words. Because real heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear headsets, and sometimes saving lives is just a matter of knowing when to break the rules.